Hi and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 3 are going to present our market and stock analysis. But before that, allow me to introduce our group members. The first presenter would be me, Syazwina Asilah Binti Saifuddin, followed by Nurulain Binti Rizal, Nurnadhirah Binti Muhammad Nazri, Siti Hawa Aisyah Binti Rahim, and Muhammad Syahmie bin Abdul Aziz. Without further ado, let's go to the introduction. We have analyzed 4 companies from 2 different sectors, which are energy and plantation sector. For energy sector, we analyzed HANDAL Energy Berhad, which specialized in offshore crane manufacturing, and BARAKAH Offshore Petroleum, which specialized in offshore petroleum. Meanwhile, for plantation sector, we analyzed TAANN Holdings Berhad, which specialized in timber, and Sarawak Oil Palms Berhad, which specialized in oil palm. Now, let's move to the comparative analysis using KLCI as benchmark. In this chart, we can see that HANDAL's performance was in downtrend and below the KLCI index. Particularly in 2020, the downtrend is due to the company had to pay compensations for retrenchments during COVID-19 pandemic. In 2021, HANDAL Energy Berhad was back on track thanks to progress in integrated crane service and pipeline maintenance. Next, BARAKAH. BARAKAH's performance was also in downtrend and below the KLCI index. However, it crossed above the KLCI index in June 2022 as its wholly owned subsidiary group served a notice of arbitration to claim a sum of 56 million ringgit Malaysia. Moving on to the TAANN. TAANN's performance has been on uptrend, outperforming the KLCI index and significantly improved in 2022. This is due to the increasing of TAANN's earning per share from 18 cents to 87 cents in a single year. Last but not least, SOP. SOP's performance also has been on uptrend, outperforming the KLCI index. However, we can see that in June 2022, SOP's performance began to fall due to the planters reported earning loss because of labor shortages in oil palm industry. That's all from me. Now let's continue with Nurulain with industrial and trend analysis.
Thank you, Syazwina. Now let's move on to industrial performance. There are 5 major industries that contribute to Malaysia's overall GDP, which are services, manufacturing, agriculture, mining, and construction. For our chosen industry, which are energy and plantation, both can be referred under services and agriculture respectively. From this figure, we can analyze that services industry has shown a better performance than agriculture industry in terms of their contribution to Malaysia's GDP for recent years. The energy sector is consisting of those companies that are focusing on the production and supply of energy products and delivered to the other economy that consume it. From this index chart, the stock is in a sideways trend from July 2021 until July 2022. This happens when the forces of supply and demand are nearly equal. This could be related to the war of Ukraine-Russia that happened in February 2022, resulting in an increase of level and volatility of oil prices. This in turn resulting the energy sector to experience a drastic downfall in April 2021, then creating a sideways trend ever since. Now, looking at HANDAL and BARAKAH's stock performance, the bearish market shows that the energy industry is in a weak performance from the last quarter of 2021 until the first and second quarter of 2022. This is mainly due to the global energy crisis and there is an exceed demand for energy commodities over supply. Moving on to plantation sector, it is an agriculture business that commonly involves hired labor and focus primarily on the production of monocultures for market demand. From the Bursa Malaysia's Plantation Index chart, the stock is in a sideways trend from July 2021 until February 2022, then drastically rise during February 2022 and fall during May 2022 until July 2022. The reason behind the fluctuation movement during the first and second quarter of 2022 can be related after the plantation sector continues to have a good rating from MIDF Research, with a target price of CPO of 3,300 ringgit per ton for 2022. From this figure, we can also see there is a similarity between the stock price of plantation companies. Even though the market shows a significant downfall in May 2022 regarding the news from the MIDF research, they predict that the price of CPO won't fall much in the coming year and will remain favorable in 2022. Therefore, we can conclude that the agriculture sector shows a good performance and better than energy sector during this recent one-year period, which is from July 2021 until July 2022. This can be a good sign for investors to enter the market. Now, let's move on to trend analysis. For HANDAL stock, the major trend is in a downtrend from June 2021 until July 2022, indicating a bearish market. Meanwhile, the secondary trend shows an uptrend between September 2021 until November 2021. Then, it is in a downtrend for the short-term duration during March 2022. Meanwhile, for BARAKAH, a downtrend line occurred as a major trend and secondary trend. Meanwhile, an uptrend line happens for a short-term trend in early January 2022. Next, TAANN. An uptrend line occurred as a major trend but a downtrend as a secondary and short-term trend. Both of these trends occurred between March to July 2022. Similarly to another plantation company, which is Sarawak Oil Palm Berhad, the major trend was also in an uptrend condition in a one-year duration. However, initially, a sideways trend occurred as a secondary trend. Meanwhile, for a short-term trend, a downtrend line was established. And that's all from me. Let's move on to price pattern analysis by Nurnadhirah.
Thank you, Ain, for a brief explanation on industrial performance and trend line. Next, we will continue with price pattern. There are two types of price pattern, where the first one is reversal pattern happens when the price pattern changes in direction. Meanwhile, a continuation pattern occurs when trend line continue in existing direction following a brief pause. For HANDAL Energy Berhad, there are two continuation patterns, which is the first one is rising wedge in 2020, where the price pulls from predominant trend and moves into tighter consolidation range. This shows a bearish continuation pattern and a sell signal. Next, the second pattern is bullish pattern, where the price pattern takes place in 2021 when the stock price moved into tighter consolidation range. This shows a bullish continuation pattern and a buy signal. For BARAKAH Offshore Petroleum Berhad, there are four continuation patterns, which the first pattern is bearish rectangle in 2019, as the highs and low can be connected to form two parallel lines in which it shows a sell signal. The second pattern is bullish pattern in 2020 when the stock price moved into tighter consolidation range. This shows a bullish continuation pattern and a buy signal. The third pattern is double top in 2021 as the price hit resistance level 2 times before the price turned around and moves into opposite direction. Therefore, the price will fall after it broken out double top formation and shows a sell signal. The fourth pattern is descending triangle in 2020, where the lower trend line is flat and the upper trend line is descending. The trader will enter into a short position on a break below the support, which it shows a sell signal. For TAANN Holding Berhad, there are three continuation patterns, which the first one is bearish rectangle in 2019 as the highs and low can be connected to form two parallel lines in which it shows a sell signal. Next, the second pattern is bullish pattern in 2020 when the stock price moved into tighter consolidation range. This shows a bullish continuation pattern and a buy signal. Lastly, the third pattern is bullish flag in 2022, indicates the price will rise after it broken out the flag formation in which it shows a buy signal. For Sarawak Oil Palm Berhad, there are one continuation pattern, which is the falling wedge in 2020, where it is a bullish continuation pattern as the price is uptrend before the wedge began to form and shows a buy signal. Now, we will continue with Hawa on technical overlay.
Thank you, Nurnadhirah. Moving on to technical overlay. For technical overlay, we focus on simple moving average (SMA), in which we analyze single SMA and double SMA. So, how do we analyze them? For single SMA, as the closing price moves above the moving average, it shows buy signal, and vice versa, it indicates sell signal. Meanwhile, for double SMA, as the blue line, which is shorter moving average, crosses above the red line, which is the longer moving average, it shows buy signal. And vice versa, it indicates sell signal. Before we go further to the first company, the charts that we analyze have marked with vertical lines colored in green as buy signal and red as sell signal. First company, HANDAL Energy Berhad. For single SMA, the first centered vertical line shows buy signal. Meanwhile, the second and fourth vertical line shows sell signal. For double SMA, the fourth vertical line shows sell signal, buy signal, and sell signal, respectively. Next, Barakah Offshore Petroleum Berhad. For single SMA, the vertical line shows buy signal, buy signal, and sell signal. Meanwhile, for double SMA, this company shows buy signal at the first vertical line and sell signal at the second vertical line. To conclude HANDAL and Barakah's technical overlay, we would recommend medium-term investors to sell the stock because there is no guarantee that the stock will rebound and avoid big loss in the future. However, we would recommend long-term investors to hold the stock until new strong signal is established. Only can determine whether to buy or sell. Moving on to the third company, TAANN Holding Berhad. This company shows buy signal at the first vertical line for the SMA, followed by sell signal and buy signal and sell signal. For double SMA, as you can see right here, the vertical line shows a buy signal, sell signal, and a buy signal. And the last company, Sarawak Oil Palms Berhad. For single SMA, it shows the buy signal for all vertical lines except for the third line. Meanwhile, for double SMA, it shows buy signal for all vertical lines except for the third line. To conclude TAANN and SOP's technical overlay, the signal established for single SMA and double SMA is different. For single SMA, we would recommend medium-term investors to sell the stock because the stock shows no guarantee that it will rebound, and this is to avoid bigger loss in the future. However, we would recommend long-term investors to hold the stock until new strong signal is established whether to buy or sell the stock. For double SMA, we would recommend medium-term investors to buy the stock since there is a strong signal by overall indicators and in order to benefit from the stable and rising market price. However, we would recommend long-term investors to buy the stock if it is still in a good performance and hold the stock until the new strong signal is established.
Thank you, Hawa. Next, I will be presenting about the technical indicator which are RSI, MACD, and stochastic. The MACD is simply the difference between the two moving average which are generally 12 period and 26 period EMA. The buy signal for MACD occur when the MACD cross above the signal line and the sell signal is vice versa. The relative strength index RSI used to measure the speed and change of price movements of stocks. The buy signal for RSI is when the RSI is below 30 and then move up and cross over the oversold line, while the sell signal is when the RSI is above 70 and then move down and cross below the overbought line. For stochastic, it compares a security's closing price to its range over a given time period. The buy signal for stochastic, which is during the percent of K line, is above the percent of D line in the oversold range, which is below 20. The percent of K line is the fast sensitive indicator and the percent of D line is the slower indicator. The HANDAL energy shows 3 buy signal and 1 sell signal for MACD indicator. It is also the same for RSI and stochastic, where there are 3 buy signal and 1 sell signal. For Barakah Offshore, the MACD indicator and stochastic shows 3 buy signal and 1 sell signal, while for RSI shows 2 sell signal and 2 buy signal. By using MACD indicators, TAANN Holdings shows 3 buy signal and 1 sell signal. Both RSI and stochastic shows 2 buy signal and 2 sell signal. For Sarawak Oil Palms, the stochastic and RSI shows 3 sell signal and 1 buy signal, while for MACD, it shows 2 sell signal and 2 buy signal. In conclusion, for technical indicators, first indicator, which is MACD. According to MACD, we would recommend the medium-term investors to sell HANDAL and Sarawak oil pumps since there is no guarantee that the stock will rebound. Meanwhile, hold the stock for long-term investors until a new strong signal is established. However, the medium-term and long-term investors are advised to buy the stock of BARAKAH and TAANN holdings. Next indicator, which is RSI and stochastic. The medium and long-term investors should buy the HANDAL and BARAKAH based on the RSI and stochastic indicators. Meanwhile, for TAANN and Sarawak oil pumps, we will advise the medium-term investors to sell the stock because there is no guarantee that the stock will rebound. However, the long-term investors should hold the stock until a new strong signal is established. That's all from me.
Before we end this presentation, let me finish. Finally, we would advise medium-term investors to sell their HANDAL, TAANN, and LSP stock because there is no guarantee that the stock will rebound. Not only that, they also may be able to avoid larger losses in the future. Meanwhile, medium-term investors are advised to purchase BARAKAH stock. Long-term investors should hold their HANDAL, TAANN, and SLP stock until there is a new strong signal established. And only then, they should decide whether to buy or sell their stocks. Last but not least, long-term investors are advised to purchase BARAKAH stock. Now that's all from us. Thank you for watching.